This video is going to be a V-Rising redistribution engine guide to help you understand the basics and everything involved with getting started on utilizing the redistribution engine within your base. And I've done a couple like quick tips and tricks type videos for the redistribution engine, but I want to really take my time in this one and help you understand all of the basics involved with this. Because I know there's a lot of newer players to V-Rising that are kind of overwhelmed with how to get this set up and how to automate everything, and then wondering if they should even bother and all of that. So in this video, I'll walk you through kind of laying the groundwork of understanding how this works and how to utilize it to your advantage. And if you haven't unlocked this yet on your server, it is going to unlock up here at the level 77 boss, Henry Blackbrew, the Doctor. Down here on the bottom left, you're going to be getting the redistribution engine right here. And then once you defeat Henry Blackbrew, they will be available to build right here under production and the general tab. Over on the far right here, the redistribution engine. Like right here, it says I'm currently 8 out of 8 available engines built, so I am at max capacity in terms of the amount I can fit in my base. Each redistribution engine will give you 8 slots to attach things to send around your base. So that means because I've built all 8, I will have 64 available connections I can build for distribution. And then if you click on a redistribution engine, it will pull up the screen right here that shows your connection capacity. That means I've currently connected 7 things to automatically send throughout my base, and I can go up to 64 total. And something to note is that the location of the engines does not matter. Your castle is going to simply be checking for these things to exist, and if you've got the connections available, you can then utilize them. So you can literally just do what I did here and build like a redistribution engine room. You don't have to put one like in each castle room, like one in your workshop and one in your forge and one in your jeweler. You don't need to do that. You can just have an engine room like I've got right here where I stack them all up. And to show you how this works, I will just really quickly connect something from scratch. So let's go into the workshop here where we would be chopping wood, and I'm going to drop a sawmill right here, plop that down. Okay, so now I've got a sawmill, and let's say I want the wood that I chop to go automatically into storage. So what I'm going to do is head into my sawmill, and then over here you've got a redistribution tab up on the top right. So we're going to go into that tab, and we're going to click add connection. Now it's going to bring up this menu where we can drag our connection to go somewhere, and we're going to get this little white square if it's somewhere that we're allowed to connect to. So you can see I drag it over here to the storage box, and it's going to light up green. That means it is an acceptable connection and it will successfully link. So I'm going to click that to go ahead and attach it, and then I can back out of that window. Then if I go in here under the connections tab, it's showing large material storage, and I've got that successfully connected. And it is not going to be on by default, so you're going to want to toggle the auto send if you would like it to send any of the things that end up in the output straight into that storage. And for this connection to successfully work, it's going to have to produce something that can go into this storage. It can't fit something like oil or whatever. It's only going to be able to put materials from the output that are actually enabled to go into the large material storage. And I can show you how this works. If I go back to the sawmill and I start chopping wood, we're going to see when the plank finishes, it's going to go automatically over into our large material storage, and you will see it also flash blue. So you'll see right here when this finishes, it is not going to have a plank here. Boom, it automatically went over here. And now we've got the 2 outputs right here in the plank and the sawdust, because they can both go into the material storage, which means they are automatically going to do so. And the game is also going to flash blue right there. When that effect happens, you'll see both the input and the output have that little blue flash, and that is showing you that the redistribution engine is doing a task at work. So you'll see when this happens here in a couple seconds, both the sawmill right there and the storage flash blue. That means a successful connection via the redistribution engine has just occurred. And so now I want to show you something else that can happen here. If I stop this, I'm going to put in some hollow wood. Now hollow wood is going to produce plank, but also oil. Now oil cannot go into this large material storage over here because oil isn't something we can fit in here. So what's going to happen is the oil won't be able to be sent via that connection, but the plank will. So when this production finishes, we're going to have a plank automatically get sent to the storage, but the oil will remain in the output because it couldn't utilize the engine to be put into the storage. So here we go, that's about to finish, and you will see, boom, the plank will get sent over, but the oil remains. So what we could do is we could add another connection to like an alchemy storage, and then both would be sent. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Let's pop into here, into our building, let's go under storage, and let's fire up an alchemy storage area right here. Boom, we put that down, and let's go into here, into our sawmill. We're gonna add a connection, and we're gonna edit connections. We're gonna connect that to the storage. We've got auto send on. Let's clear that. So right now, a plank and an oil is gonna finish, and you won't see both. The plank will go over to the one storage, and the oil will go into this new one that we built right here. We've got that oil that was built. So you can do multiple connections from the same production building to make sure that everything is going where it needs to be into the proper storage area. But let's clear all that and let's start from scratch here, because I want to show you something else that you can do involving looping with the redistribution engine. And this is going to be insanely fun and a really great mechanic to know about. This is one that I did a tips and tricks video on, but I do want to include in kind of like the beginner basics understanding of the engine. So again, I've placed a sawmill with no connections yet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize the devourer that you see right here. Let's place that down right there. And what I can do is I can use the devourer to cycle my wood back to do something like turn all my planks that are produced. If I want wood to be turned into like only sawdust, like let's say I already have hundreds of planks and I don't want any planks, well, what I can do is I can use the devourer to send any planks that are made back through the sawmill after it's turned back into wood, and we have another chance at producing the same byproduct. Which, as you can see right here, let's say I put in some wood right here, and I'm going to be getting planks and sawdust. But let's say I just want a bunch of sawdust for my paper press. I don't really care about planks right now. Well, what I can do is I can route those planks into the devourer, which will turn it back into wood and then send it back to the sawmill for more sawdust. As you can see right there, we've got one plank and then another one piling up right there. But let's go ahead and let's add a connection to the devourer like that. And then we're going to go into the devourer and add a connection from the devourer back into the sawmill like that. So now what you'll see is that we have to turn this on to be auto send. We have to turn this on to make sure it is auto send. So let's clear that and let's show you what happens here. So watch this. When this is going to finish, now we only get sawdust, and the plank automatically goes in here to the devourer to get chopped back down into wood, and that wood gets sent back over here to the sawmill. So now we've got a loop going on where we're only going to get sawdust, because any plank that comes out is going to automatically go into here to get crunched down into more wood that then gets looped back into our sawmill for more sawdust. And let me clear that out for a second, because I can show you another use for this that would be super handy. So let's say you've got something like hollow wood right here where it's going to give us planks and oil. But let's say, you know what, I just want the oil and I just want like the byproducts. I just want the oil for my alchemy and I just want the sawdust for my paper press. I don't care about the planks. Well, hollow wood can be a really good source of that. So let me fast forward to when this is closer to finishing. Okay, here we go. That's about to finish, and we're going to get oil into the output, but the planks we would have got are going to automatically go into the devourer right there. So we only have the oil, and the 4 planks that we got produced from the hollowed wood is going to go directly into here, and then that's going to turn into regular wood right here. So we turned the hollowed wood into planks. Those planks became wood, so now we're going to be getting oil and sawdust from hollow wood. And those are the kinds of things you're really going to want to utilize and take advantage of, because you're going to get to a point where you've got a lot of the basic stuff like planks. You just want some of the byproducts that are producing from these things. So you want to utilize them in things like your paper press, which is where the sawdust is going to go to help you utilize that. So you just want those byproducts. You can do things like this loop through the devourer to crunch it down and keep this process rolling without you having to like do it manually, wait for it to finish, now go put it in storage and wait till I come back from farming. Now I come back and I want to utilize that because I've got a lot of it built up. So okay, now I'm going to go place it where it needs to go. And like you end up getting way slowed down if you don't utilize the engine to do this stuff for you, distribute stuff, and keep these cycles rolling. Because now you can see right here, I've got my oil and my sawdust piling up, and what I could do is another connection where I send that oil and that sawdust to where it's supposed to properly go. Because I just come up here to add another connection, and then I'm going to drag this new sawmill that we built. I'm going to go into the library. And by the way, you have a pretty long range on this. You don't have to be standing right next to something. I can just barely get it in my field of vision, and then I can connect it like that. So don't worry about moving all around your castle. Just kind of get it on your screen, and then I can click it right there. So now I want to send over to that paper press, and now anything that can be accepted by an input recipe in that paper press will now receive anything that's going into the output here on the sawmill. So now there's somewhere for that sawdust to go. So now what's going to happen if I clear this out is when this one finishes, I'm only going to get the oil to pop out right there. The sawdust is gone. The sawdust went over here into the paper press. If I dash on over there, I can show you. So because I connected that, the only thing that stays there is the oil, and the sawdust, because there's a recipe here in the paper press, it's going to be calling for sawdust. But that will only happen when we're actually devouring one here and sending it back. So like this one right here now, it's going to have a sawdust remnant in the output. So what's going to happen is that thing should flash blue, and we should see, yep, there it goes. See, that one flashed blue. That means now I have sawdust in here ready to go, and it's automatically being distributed. So when I get enough sawdust sent over from that sawmill, enough to send this recipe through for paper, it's going to automatically fire a paper into the output right here. And that means you're starting to see the potential of this, because what do we have for another recipe? We have something that calls for paper. So what we can do is have that paper automatically get routed into a paper press. Well, like you see right there, the paper just started. So paper is going to go into the output. Now we can start getting super fancy with this. We can take that paper and send it automatically to another paper press that's calling for this coarse thread right here. And now we can automate scrolls, and we can go so on down the chain. And you may have noticed the paper that finished, it did not go into the output. That's because I've got a connection here going to large knowledge storage, which means it's going to be heading automatically over to here. So when that paper finished, it automatically got added in here to this stack. Which, while we've got a storage pulled up, another important thing to understand is right now, unfortunately, we can't add a connection from a storage back into a production line, because there is no tab here for me to click like edit connections or anything in order to allow me to add a distribution engine connection from like my knowledge storage into my paper press, which is super unfortunate. I wish we could do that. I wish we could like set parameters. Like if my knowledge storage has greater than 100 paper, I want you to then flip on this connection that sends all paper in here through this connection. That would be super hype if they add that at some point via like a patch. But right now, we can't utilize these storages to send things anywhere. They can only receive. And then this might be the coolest thing of all with the redistribution engine, is the ability to, right here from your treasury, mass branch everything out from your base in one room instantly. And I'll show you how this works. So what you're going to want to do is drop any workstation that only has a container like this. So anything that would work would be something like a prison cell. I know is popular. A lot of people like to utilize that. So you'd go in here, drop a prison cell, and then I can show you how this works. We drop that and we pull it up here. So right, you see I got this container, like that same kind of setup, but you do anything that has a setup like that. And then what I can do is I can right click things into that container. Then I go to the top right and I add a connection. Let's say I want to connect it to my storage right here. Well, now this wood and this planks, it's here in this container. And because the game allows us to add a connection from a prison cell, now all we have to do is click quick send all, and you can see how it highlights those things down there that it's going to send. So I can just go boom, and now they went automatically. You saw it flash blue. They went automatically here into these stacks. So then in terms of which building you should be utilizing to take advantage of this distribution hub, there's a few different things to consider. Like I would personally really like it if I could drop something like a woodworking bench and then have that fit kind of nicely in the corner here like this, and be able to just kind of send everything from here. But there's a couple disadvantages of something like a woodworking bench, which is number one, and most importantly, I can't send this to my storages. So like if you'll notice right here, when I try to connect this, I can't connect it to anything here on the wall that accepts storages. I can only connect my woodworking bench to either the furnaces or these material storages right here. So it's not like a super universal option. I can't connect it very well. And then also I can't rename it. The woodworking bench is just always woodworking bench. I can't edit that in any way. So then I could use something like a furnace or a loom. If we go over here to refinement and I drop something like a loom, the upside of the loom is I could come up here and rename it to something like distribution hub, like so, and then boom, I can actually see that labeled here within my base. But one of the buildings like the furnace or the loom also has a downside in that when I want to right click to send something over into the loom, the default is going to be going into the input. You can see when I right click, it goes into the input. That's no good. I can't distribute things throughout my base from the input tab. So then it's kind of annoying that I have to come down here and like manually drag everything over, because I also can't just right click. If I right click over here, it goes back into my inventory. So all I can do is go back and forth without sitting here and manually dragging everything over. And then at that point, I would be able to send it out. So that is some of the reasons why it's a little bit more common to see something like a prison cell being used, because what I can do is slap that down, and the prison cell, I can't rename it, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I can, this is the most important part, I can actually connect it to everything, including the storage right here, the fish over here, my storage is on the wall, also my refinement stations like my furnace, and into my tailor. I can take it over to my loom or my tannery. So the prison cell is going to be a lot more of a universal option. And you don't have to be concerned up here on the top right where it says we do not have the matching floor. So we've got this big red X. We're not going to be utilizing this station to craft or produce anything. We're just using this to distribute things around our base. We're sending things over into the container spot, and then we're going to click send all and distribute it around our base. And then in terms of that, there's a couple things I want you to understand as well. So let's go ahead and let's add a connection of going over here to our furnace. We want to use this to distribute some raw materials we come back with and have it get smelted. So what I would do then is I would come over here to the prison cell. I would send this iron over. Now this iron is ready to be sent over to our furnace to be smelted. Now the auto send isn't going to send this container stuff over. Like if I right click right there, it's not sending it from this universal type hub setup, because it's not an actual output of a production that's going to move down the production line. It's just sitting in this container type area. So that means we're gonna have to send it on over and distribute it around our base. So there's a couple different ways to do this. You can do individual ones, like right here I can click this box with the arrow that will just interact with the advanced furnace. Or what people like to do is up here on the top right, there was a quick send button where I can just instantly distribute everything in that container box as long as it has somewhere it's able to go. And I can show you this in action if I put some consumables down here and then I add a connection of going to a consumable spot right there. Okay, now if I go to my prison cell and I tab those in, now when I click quick send all, you can see all 8 of them are outlined in green. That means they all have a spot to be sent. If they did not have a spot to be sent, they wouldn't get outlined in green. Like I wouldn't have a connection ready to accept my weapon. So when I highlight over the quick send all, now the 7 that can go somewhere are going to get highlighted with that green square, but the weapon is not. And so this was what I was talking about. If you wanted to go over here to your connections and just do one of them, you could. Like I could mouse over this and just send the iron, or I could go over here and just send the consumables. But like I said, what people like to do is just right click it over and then click on quick send all, and you saw it flash with blue. That means the things got sent over to their designated location. And right now this furnace will be running because the iron got sent over, and then I will have those different consumables that I took out of my inventory and put in there, and they automatically got stored over here into the storage and added to my piles. But there is also another thing you're going to want to note when you're setting this up, is that you can see right here it says connected inventories 2 out of 10. So if you want to do some sort of extravagant, crazy setup where you've got 30 different connections, you're going to need 3 different prisons in order to facilitate that many connections. So something you can do if you really want to get crazy with this is you can have like one prison where you send out all of your production, and then one prison where you send out all of your stuff going into storage, and that will allow you a way to kind of separate them into 2 different ways and have plenty of connections. So like right here, I can have this one going to my consumables, and then I would add another prison right here, right next to it, where I would send and connect everything to my production. So right here, I would go add the connection, and I would send it over here to the furnace. And then boom, I could go around my base and connect all of the other ones as well. I'm just kind of showing you how to do it. So then this one here, I can tab over and see consumables. This one over here is going to be my materials going over to the furnace and stuff like that. So then when I come back from farming, I just go on over here, and then anything that I want to send into storage, I would send it on over. And then over here, anything I want to send out to the production facilities, I would send it over. Click quick send, and then boom, just from one little area, I just sent out like 10 to 20 different things instantly. Instead of having to run up to each storage and open it up and hit quick send, run over here, open it up, hit quick send, then run around my base and manage everything and keep everything running, I can do that very easily just from one spot, sending it all out. And there's all sorts of crazy things you can do with setting this up. I may also do like a deep dive video of my personal castle and show you some of the specific recipes and connections and loops that I set up in my castle. But for this video, I wanted it to be like the basics breakdown to help those of you that are a little bit overwhelmed with the redistribution engine and help you kind of understand the capabilities that it has and how to pull it off. So if you have any questions, definitely let me know down in the comment section, or I've got a Discord linked down below where you can pop in there and tag me with a question and chat with other people playing V Rising. And also remember to subscribe, that way you don't miss out on any of the tips and tricks and builds and guides and stuff like that we're going to be doing here on the channel. So I appreciate all of you. Thanks for watching. Peace.